If you've been watching this series, you might be thinking, okay, this framework makes sense, but does it actually work in real life for a real business with real numbers? I want to show you two things today. First, I want to start this with Dr. Spess was actually a neighbor of mine up in Connecticut. We met each other again during a speaking engagement that I had at a conference. I was on a stage answering questions about money and taxes for therapy practice owners. And when I came off the stage, I saw her. I'm like, oh my goodness, like what? What are the chances? So what was really interesting is the night before I had a dream about our old neighborhood. And sometimes I have a dream about situations that happen the next day or just to prepare me for what I'm going to an event for. So I didn't really think anything of it. I was just like, okay, that's part of the dream. But to have her come up to me and she was literally my across the street neighbor was very fascinating, very interesting. We, exchanged information. And what was interesting is this was back in 2024 in July. So fast forward a couple of months in November 2024, Dr. Spesh and I actually worked together on a wealth hour. The wealth hour that I have is a 90-minute session where we go over your specific CEO pay goals, create an actual profit plan for your company, and then you're able to then go out, whether you work with us or not, and just be able to have like a solid plan for your business. So during November 2024, during our profit plan, I'm looking over here for notes. She wanted to first expand her therapy practice, which is like hire clinicians as she grows, right? And she wanted to take a 3-month peaceful, heavy on the peaceful maternity leave in 2025. So when we met in November 2024, this was before she even told her family. And she wanted to go into the holiday season with a plan in place and then be able to reveal the new addition to her family with that, right? She didn't have all this hope, motivation. She just wanted a structure. And she wanted to phase out seeing her clients one on one. And then she wanted to be able to have her team generate the revenue while she's on maternity leave and so that she doesn't feel like she's carrying it alone. And it was extremely important for her to return from maternity leave without the financial pressure breathing down her neck, right? She didn't come in with this specific revenue goal. She came in with a very specific life goal. And she knew that the only way to protect this life goal was to create a profit plan and set the foundation first. So we spent 90 minutes together building out her profit plan. Again, it started with her CEO pay, and then we went over the past 6 months of her business. She actually was keeping up with her bookkeeping, so I was able to see the trends in her company. And when I think about trends, I think, especially if your revenue isn't like a linear amount every single month, it's really important to look at the past 6 months of your business revenue and your business expenses so that you can have an average to go off of, especially if things go up and down in between those 6 months. So we did that for her. And then what we did was map out what her revenue should look like so that she can cover her expenses and she's able to just have a peaceful maternity leave for 3 months that next year. And what happened was, even after our session in November 2024, we ended up working together and she became one of our bookkeeping slash financial strategy clients in 2025. So she even delegated doing the bookkeeping from doing it herself to having our team do it for her. So then that way she knew that based off of the actual versus what we projected, she can know, okay, what is her performance every single month. So fast forward to drum roll 2025 in July when she took her maternity leave, right? Guess what happened? Her revenue her revenue increased by 114.9% year over year. And also what happened is her cash flow, her cash on hand increased by 201% year over year. And she was able to maintain 25,000 plus months in revenue while she was out on maternity leave. That was fantastic. So she stepped away from her practice for 3 whole months and she didn't rush back. And this was without chaos. So revenue went up by 114%, cash on hand went up by 201%. So I want us to sit with this. This is what happens when you have a margin first company and your revenue grew, your cash grew as well. Now, a lot of times when it comes to service-based business owners, I talked about this, and I believe the second video of this series is a lot of times with service-based business owners, your revenue increases, but your expenses increase just as much. However, there are ways to diversify your revenue, which we're working on together moving forward. So then that way we can continue the growth, right? But the great thing is when she was on maternity leave, her team, handled all of the clients, and then she didn't feel like she had to rush back to what she was doing previously. She came in as a leader, and then now she wants to continue growing her practice. And let me actually read what she said. So, I was struggling with looking at the big picture financially, which made it difficult to make decisions about next step, budgeting, etc. Looking at personal finances against the business finances and identifying revenue goals was helpful. The year forecast was arguable most helpful because it was timing implication. Example, when to hire someone new, can I afford services that I'm interested in next year? And if so, how? And for improvement, we asked just context for improvement. Nothing I could think of. It was very informative, well organized, and felt customized based on my actual business figures, which was great. So, this was right after our call. She was able to kind of digest everything. And then we were able to say, okay, based on that, let's see if we could continue working together. And that's how she was able to produce those wins that next year. So, this is what happens when structure meets stewardship. When money is managed with intentionality and it doesn't just grow, it stabilizes, right? And what made it what made this sustainable wasn't just the plan, it was the visibility. Her numbers were clean, it was current, and it was actually usable. So decisions weren't like guesses, they were actually grounded. So Dr. Special's transformation started from a 90-minute profit plan. The major margins method is the exact framework built out across 4 weeks. So you don't just plan it, you implement it. In the next video, I'm going to walk you through the complete framework, every layer in order, so you see exactly what you're building. If you already know that you're ready, join the waitlist in the description and the podcast notes. The people on this list get to be the first people to know when the doors open. I'll see you in video 5. Until next time, bye.